I stood at the edge of steel and concrete, gazing out over the sprawling cityscape that had become my domain. The glass walls of our high-rise office reflected the late afternoon sun, casting long shadows across the room like skeletal fingers. I was an architect with a keen eye for detail and a passion for building not just structures but lives within them. My life was meticulously ordered, from my structured schedule to my pristine apartment. Every aspect had its place, every decision weighed and considered. Or so I thought until David walked into my world like a hurricane on a still day. David was a consultant, brought in by the firm to help with some restructuring they claimed was necessary for growth. He appeared overnight, an enigmatic figure draped in charm and confidence. His smile could light up any room, and his words could calm even the most frantic of clients. I was immediately drawn to him, swept away by his charisma and intellect. We started working closely together on several projects. It wasn't long before we found ourselves at lunch, then coffee after work, discussing everything from architecture to our personal lives. He listened like no one had in years, making me feel seen and heard. I let my guard down around him, something I rarely did with anyone. But as time passed, little inconsistencies began to nag at the edges of my perception. A discrepancy here, a vague explanation there. At first, I dismissed it as stress or mere forgetfulness on his part. Yet these small things grew into persistent whispers in my mind, urging me to pay closer attention. I tried to brush them off with humor and reassurance, but the seeds of doubt had taken root. My family, always well-meaning, would occasionally probe about our relationship. I danced around their questions, not wanting to admit the gnawing uncertainty that had taken hold. One evening, David took me to a rooftop bar overlooking the city. We sat side by side on the edge, our arms touching as we watched the lights below. He spoke passionately of his ideas for the future, his hands gesturing with fervor. In that moment, I almost believed everything was perfect, us, the company, life itself. But the more I gave in to my feelings for him, the more the shadows grew. They crept across my well-ordered world like a stain spreading beneath the surface of glass and steel. I didn't know what was true anymore or who to trust. The man beside me seemed a facade, hiding secrets behind that charming smile. As we parted ways that night, I caught a glimpse of something in his eyes, not quite guilt, but a flicker of something else, something concealed. It was enough to make the ground beneath my feet feel unstable, as if everything could shatter at any moment. Chapter 1 closed with me standing there, staring down into the city that had become both a refuge and a trap. I knew then that uncovering David's true intentions would require not just courage, but a clarity of vision I wasn't sure I possessed anymore. But to remain blind was to invite destruction, no matter how comforting it might seem. The game was on, and I held the first pawn. The days that followed were a blur of meetings and hollow conversations. My usual precision faltered as I tried to piece together the fragments of David's character, attempting to reconcile him with the man I thought he was. The discrepancies remained stubbornly in place, refusing to be smoothed over by my architect's mind. One afternoon, I managed to corner him after a team-building retreat that felt more like an interrogation than collaboration. We found ourselves alone in a small conference room off the main office space, surrounded by whiteboards filled with scribbled notes and diagrams of our latest project. A sleek new residential tower designed for maximum efficiency and minimal environmental impact. "David," I started, my voice firmer than I felt, "I need you to tell me something. Is there something you're not telling me? Something about your past or your work here?" He looked taken aback but quickly regained his composure, the mask of the consultant slipping effortlessly into place. His smile was calm and reassuring. "It's always been about building trust with our clients," he said, his hands gesturing as though explaining to a colleague rather than confronting him. "I'm sure you understand that some details are best kept private." But I didn't understand, not anymore. The shadows had deepened, casting every word in doubt. I pressed on. But the inconsistencies, David, they add up. What am I supposed to believe when even the smallest things seem off? He leaned forward then, his eyes glinting with a mixture of concern and something else. Was it frustration? It was disconcerting to see that look directed at me after having felt so connected. He said, more seriously now, "You have an architect's eye for detail. You know things don't add up perfectly in the real world. Some things just aren't meant to be understood from the outside." It was a fair point, but my intuition rebelled against his logic. My mind had always sought clarity, precision. I shifted in my seat, discomforted by the tension that had suddenly filled the room. "Maybe," I conceded reluctantly, "but there's something more, something you're not telling me about us." He sighed then, a heavy sound that seemed to carry the weight of unspoken words. For an instant, his facade wavered, revealing a glimpse of exhaustion beneath. "I wish it were as simple as all this," he said softly, leaning back in his chair. "But sometimes we have to accept that some parts of life are beyond our understanding, our control." I frowned, trying to grasp the drift of his words. They sounded like a retreat from reality rather than an acceptance of it. The silence that followed felt heavy with unsaid truths and unasked questions. I could see the clock on the wall ticking away, marking time I couldn't afford to waste in indecision. As we rose to leave the room, my hand brushed against his by accident. It sent a jolt through me, a reaction to the touch of someone who was supposed to be a friend and colleague, but now felt like a stranger wrapped in familiarity. The next day I found myself at my desk, staring blankly at the blueprints for the residential tower before me. My mind had become a maze of doubts and maybes. The structure I knew so well, the one I built with precision and care, was beginning to show cracks. I reached for my phone with a sudden decision. It was time to gather more than just pieces of a puzzle. It was time to confront the possibility that there might not be a puzzle at all, but rather a deliberate construction designed to mislead. The game had evolved. The stakes were higher now, and so was I, or at least I hoped so. My hand hovered over the call button as I silently recited my next move in the unfolding drama of my life. Little did I know that this was just the beginning, and standing on the edge of steel and concrete would soon become a metaphor for survival itself. The call to my lawyer's office was made with a steadied breath, a deliberate action amidst the chaos of thoughts and fears that had taken over my mind since I discovered David's secrets. My hand shook slightly as I held the phone, but each word I uttered was coated in a growing resolve. "Karen, I need your advice on something personal and sensitive," I began, trying to keep my voice even despite the turmoil brewing inside me. "Of course, you know you can trust me. What's going on?" Karen responded, her tone professional yet empathetic, an anchor in a storm. I took a deep breath before plunging into the depths of the unknown. "I've been investigating discrepancies in David's past and his activities here at the firm," I said, the words rolling off my tongue with an unexpected ease. "But it's not just about him anymore. It's about me, us, everything we thought our lives were." Karen was quiet for a moment on the other end of the line, her only sound a soft murmur as she likely scribbled notes down. "I'm so sorry to hear that," she finally said. "But if you've got concerns, we need to address them head-on. Have you considered speaking with someone about this? Maybe even getting a lawyer involved?" I nodded, even though I knew she couldn't see me. That's what I had her for, to provide counsel and guidance through the legal labyrinth that was certain to ensue. "I've been doing some research," I continued, my voice growing stronger with each word. "I think he might be embezzling funds from the company, using our projects to siphon money away, and it looks like he's been involved in similar schemes before." "That's serious," Karen said, her tone grave. "If you have proof or even strong suspicions, we can take action. But are you sure this is what you want to do? It's not just about the company, it's about your personal life and everything you thought you knew about him. I closed my eyes for a moment, envisioning the glass walls of our office melting away beneath the pressure of my newfound knowledge. I'm positive, I replied with more conviction than I felt. If he's done this before, there might be other victims out there, people who trusted him like I did. We need to stop this. Over the next few days, we meticulously pieced together evidence against David. It was painstaking work, but I was driven by a resolute determination not just for myself, but for everyone he may have hurt. As our case grew stronger, so did my resolve. Finally, the day of reckoning arrived. A tense meeting in the boardroom where I confronted David with the overwhelming proof of his deceit. "You've been using us," I said, my voice cold as ice. "Our projects, our clients, all for your own gain." David's smile faltered, replaced by a frantic look as he realized the game was up. He tried to deflect blame, to weave more lies into the tangled web of his deceit, but it only fell apart under scrutiny. The fallout was seismic. David resigned from the firm and faced legal repercussions that echoed far beyond our company. The firm itself had to undergo restructuring, but with transparency and honesty at its core. I emerged from the wreckage of my life with a newfound strength. My architectural practice became even more rigorous, my designs infused with an undercurrent of resilience against the fragility of human nature. The glass walls of our office reflected not shadows, but light, bright beams illuminating the paths we walked forward, each step carefully laid on the foundation of what had been shattered. As for me, I rebuilt. I constructed a life that was open to the possibility of flaws and imperfections, yet strong enough to stand against them. The cityscape that had once seemed so impenetrable was now just another landscape, full of challenges but also of opportunities for growth. I learned that sometimes even the most meticulously ordered lives can crumble, revealing the cracks we've ignored or hidden beneath the surface. But with each piece of the puzzle realigned and every inconsistency brought to light, I discovered an unexpected truth, that out of destruction comes the potential for true rebuilding. The city below me was alive with movement, a testament to human resilience in the face of uncertainty. And standing at the edge of steel and concrete, gazing out over it all, I finally found peace in knowing that no matter how complex life's structures may be, there is always room for growth, transformation, and light. The game had ended not with a catastrophic collapse, but with a foundation laid anew, solid, steadfast, ready to weather the storms of life.